I never thought a single old letter could change my life at this age. My hands were shaking when I found it, hidden inside a small wooden box that I had not opened for more than 40 years. The paper was yellow, the ink was fading, but the words were still alive. That moment pulled me back to a time when I was young, hopeful, and deeply in love. I sat alone on my bed, holding that letter close to my heart, feeling emotions I thought were long gone. I am a grandmother now, with wrinkles on my face and memories heavy in my chest. But that day, I felt like the young woman I once was. I did not know then that this letter would reopen wounds I never fully healed. And I did not know it would also teach me the most important lesson of my life. When I was in my early 20s, life was not kind to women like me. I grew up in a world where my dreams were often ignored and my feelings were rarely respected. I worked hard, loved deeply, and trusted the wrong people. I met a man who made me feel seen for the first time in my life. He wrote letters to me because we could not meet often, and every word felt like a promise of a better future. I believed in him with all my heart. But life had other plans, and those plans did not include happiness for me back then. One day, without warning, he disappeared from my life. No goodbye, no explanation, only silence. That silence stayed with me for years. I got married later, not out of love, but out of pressure and fear of being alone. I became a mother, then slowly turned into a grandmother. I did everything society expected from me. I cooked, cleaned, cared, and sacrificed. But somewhere deep inside, a part of me stayed empty. I told myself love was only for the young. I believed happiness had an age limit, and I had crossed it long ago. I buried my emotions so deep that even I forgot they existed. Life moved on, but my heart stayed frozen in time. I smiled for others while hiding the pain I never spoke about. Years passed, and my children grew up and left home. The house became quiet, too quiet sometimes. I spent my days doing the same routine, living more in memories than in the present. One afternoon, while cleaning an old closet, I found that wooden box. I almost threw it away, thinking it was useless junk. But something stopped me. My heart started beating faster before I even opened it. Inside was that letter, folded carefully, waiting for me all these years. The moment I touched it, tears filled my eyes without warning. It felt like my past was calling me back. I sat down slowly and began to read. Every word reminded me of who I used to be. The letter spoke of love, hope, and promises that were never fulfilled. It talked about dreams we planned together, dreams that never came true. I felt anger, sadness, and regret all at once. I asked myself why life had been so unfair. I wondered why I had to suffer while others seemed to find love so easily. My chest felt heavy, and my breathing became slow. For a moment, I thought I would break completely. But then something unexpected happened. As I kept reading, I noticed something I had missed before. The letter was not just about love, it was also about courage. It reminded me that I once believed in myself. I once believed I deserved happiness. That belief did not die, it was just sleeping inside me. I realized I had spent my whole life pleasing others and forgetting my own heart. The pain I carried for decades was slowly turning into strength. I wiped my tears and took a deep breath. That night, I could not sleep. My mind was full of thoughts and memories. I thought about all the chances I never took because I was afraid. I thought about how many women like me give up on love too early. Society tells us that after a certain age, we should only live for others. But no one tells us that our hearts still beat, still feel, still hope. I looked at my reflection in the mirror and saw more than wrinkles. I saw a survivor. I saw a woman who had endured loss, betrayal, and loneliness, yet was still standing. For the first time in many years, I allowed myself to dream again. Not about the past, but about the present. I did not know what love would look like at this age, but I knew I deserved peace. I deserved joy, even if it came late. That letter did not just remind me of old love. It awakened a new version of me, a stronger, wiser woman who was no longer afraid. That was the moment my life quietly began to change without anyone noticing. And that was only the beginning of my story. After that night, something inside me refused to go back to sleep. I woke up every morning with the same thoughts running through my mind. The letter was no longer just paper. It had become a voice that would not leave me alone. I kept asking myself why I stayed silent for so many years. I realized I had been loyal to pain, not to myself. My life had been shaped by choices I never truly made. For the first time, I felt angry, not at others, but at how much of myself I had given away. That anger slowly turned into clarity, and clarity is a powerful thing. I started noticing how invisible I had become to the world. People saw me as just a grandmother, someone whose best days were already gone. They spoke over me, decided for me, and expected me to agree quietly. I had learned to nod and smile even when my heart wanted to scream. But now, that silence felt unbearable. I remembered how my younger self used to speak her mind without fear. Somewhere along the way, I had lost that voice, and I wanted it back, no matter how late it was. Memories I had buried began to surface one by one. I remembered the day I was forced into a marriage I did not want. I remembered how my dreams were called childish and selfish. I remembered how love was taken from me and replaced with duty. For years, I told myself this was normal life for women like me. I told myself suffering was my role. But now, those excuses sounded empty. I could finally see how unfair it had all been. And once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it. The betrayal was not just from one man. It was from a system that taught me my happiness did not matter. It was from family members who told me to stay quiet, to keep peace. It was from friends who watched me disappear and said nothing. I carried everyone's expectations on my shoulders while my own needs were ignored. That realization hurt more than any heartbreak. It felt like my whole life had been stolen in slow motion. Yet, instead of breaking me, it gave me strength I never knew I had. I began to change in small but powerful ways. I stopped apologizing for speaking. I stopped explaining my feelings to people who did not listen. I started spending time alone, not because I was lonely, but because I needed to reconnect with myself. I wrote in a notebook every night, pouring out thoughts I had kept hidden for decades. Each word felt like a release. Each sentence brought me closer to the woman I used to be. Healing was not fast, but it was real. People around me noticed the change. Some were uncomfortable with it. They asked why I was acting different, why I was suddenly so firm. I smiled, and told them I was finally honest. Not everyone liked that answer. Some tried to remind me of my age, as if time had the power to erase my worth. But their words no longer controlled me. I had spent too many years living for others. I was done shrinking myself to make people comfortable. One evening, I read the letter again, but this time without tears. I saw it for what it truly was, a reminder, not a regret. I no longer wished things had turned out differently. Instead, I felt proud that I survived everything life threw at me. The man who once left without explanation no longer held power over my heart. I had carried his absence long enough. Letting go felt like revenge in its own quiet way. Not revenge through anger, but through freedom. I realized revenge does not always mean hurting someone back. Sometimes it means becoming someone they never expected you to be. Strong, peaceful, and unbreakable. The people who once underestimated me could no longer recognize me. I walked with confidence, spoke with purpose, and lived without fear of judgment. That was my victory, a victory earned through pain, patience, and self-respect. Pregny's past, I felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from my chest. I started believing that life still had surprises waiting for me, not because I was young again, but because I was finally awake. I no longer saw myself as a woman at the end of her story. I saw myself as someone standing at a new beginning. And deep down, I knew that something unexpected was coming. Something that would change my life once more, in a way I never imagined. Life has a strange way of surprising you when you stop looking back. I did not wake up one day expecting love to find me again. I was only trying to live in peace, nothing more. My days became calmer, and my nights were no longer filled with regret. I learned to enjoy my own company, something I had never done before. I started walking every morning, feeling the air on my face and the ground under my feet. Each step felt like proof that I was still alive, still moving forward. I stopped counting my age and started counting my blessings. That small shift changed everything. It was during one of those quiet mornings that I met him. Not in a dramatic way, not like in movies, but in a simple, honest moment. We crossed paths at a local community center where I had started volunteering. He smiled and said good morning, and I smiled back without thinking. There was no rush, no pressure, just warmth. He spoke kindly, listened carefully, and never looked at me like I was invisible. That alone felt unusual and comforting. I did not know then that this simple greeting would grow into something meaningful. At first, I kept my distance. My heart had learned to protect itself over the years. I told myself I was too old for feelings like this. I reminded myself of past pain and broken trust. But he was patient, never pushing, never demanding. He showed up consistently, the same way every time. We talked about life, family, and small memories that made us laugh. He respected my silence and valued my words. Slowly, without force, my walls began to fall. What surprised me most was how safe I felt. Not excited in a restless way, but calm and understood. He did not try to fix me or change me. He accepted my past without questions, and my present without judgment. I shared parts of my story I had never told anyone. Instead of pity, he gave me respect. Instead of advice, he gave me space. That kind of connection felt rare and precious. It made me realize how little I had asked for all my life. There were moments when fear returned. Late at night, doubts whispered in my mind. I asked myself what people would say. I wondered if I was being foolish at this age. Society had trained me to believe love had an expiration date. But every time I saw him, those fears grew weaker. I felt seen as a woman, not just a role or a responsibility. That feeling healed parts of me I did not know were still broken. I realized it was not love I feared, but losing it again. One afternoon, he asked me about the letter. I had not planned to share it, but something in his eyes made me trust him. I told him everything, from my youth to my heartbreak. I told him how that letter changed me after decades of silence. He listened without interrupting, his attention fully on me. When I finished, he held my hand gently and said something I will never forget. He said my story did not end with pain, it began with survival. Those words stayed with me long after that day. That was the moment I understood something deeply important. Love is not always about passion and promises. Sometimes it is about understanding and patience. It is about choosing someone every day, even when life is quiet. I was no longer chasing love. I was allowing it to walk beside me. There was no rush to define anything. We simply enjoyed the time we shared. That simplicity felt like freedom. People around me reacted in different ways. Some were supportive, others were shocked. A few even laughed, as if love at my age was a joke. Their reactions did not hurt me the way they once would have. I had grown stronger than their opinions. I had lived a life full of silence, and I refused to return to it. For the first time, I chose myself without guilt. That choice felt like the greatest revenge of all. As weeks turned into months, my heart felt fuller than it had in years. Not because someone completed me, but because I had finally accepted myself. I no longer saw my past as a failure. I saw it as a lesson that led me here. I stopped asking why things happened the way they did. Instead, I felt grateful that I was still here to feel joy. Love did not erase my pain, but it softened it, and that was enough. Forging evening, as I watched the sunset, I realized how far I had come. From a young woman full of broken dreams to a grandmother who refused to give up. I thought about all the women like me who believe it is too late. I wished they could feel what I felt in that moment: peace, hope, and quiet happiness. I knew my journey was not over yet, and I knew the final chapter of my story would be the most powerful one of all. There was a time when I believed my life was already written, and nothing new could be added to it. I thought all my important moments were behind me. But standing where I am now, I know how wrong I was. Life did not end when my heart was broken. It only paused, waiting for me to wake up. Every tear I cried, every silence I endured, shaped the woman I became. I no longer regret those years. They gave me strength I did not see back then. And strength, once found, never leaves you. I learned that healing does not come with noise or celebration. It comes quietly, in moments you do not expect. It comes when you stop asking for permission to be happy. For years, I waited for others to approve my choices. I waited for the right time, the right age, the right words. That waiting cost me more than any heartbreak ever did. Now I understand that time does not wait for us. We must choose to live before it slips away. Love returned to my life, not as a storm, but as a calm breeze. It did not demand anything from me. It did not ask me to change who I was. It simply reminded me that I was still worthy of care, of respect, of companionship. I realized that real love does not hurt or confuse. It brings peace. And peace is something every woman deserves, no matter her age. The letter that once filled me with pain now feels like a gift. It reminded me of my past, but it did not control my future. I kept it, not as a memory of loss, but as a symbol of survival. It represents the woman I was and the woman I became. I no longer wish things had gone differently. If they had, I might not have learned my true value. Sometimes, what breaks us also builds us. I look at my reflection now and feel proud, not because life was easy, but because I stayed kind in a world that tried to harden me. I stayed hopeful, even when hope felt foolish. I did not let bitterness define me. That choice was mine, and it is a choice every woman can make, even after years of pain. Our past does not get to decide our ending. To anyone listening to my story, especially women who feel invisible, I want you to hear this clearly. Your life is not over. Your heart is not empty, and your dreams are not foolish. Society may tell you to be quiet, to sit back, to accept less. Do not listen. You have already survived so much. You are stronger than you think, and it is never too late to choose yourself. I once thought revenge meant making others feel the pain they caused me. Now I know better. The greatest revenge is living well, living freely, living without fear. The people who doubted me no longer matter. Their opinions no longer shape my world. I took back my power, one small choice at a time. And that power changed everything. As a grandmother, I carry stories not just for myself, but for the generations after me. I want them to know that love has no age, happiness has no deadline, and strength grows with time, not youth. I want them to see that a woman's worth does not fade. It deepens, like a story well lived. If I could speak to my younger self, I would tell her to trust her heart and not be afraid. I would tell her that pain will come, but it will not last forever. I would tell her that one day she will stand strong and unbroken. And most of all, I would tell her that she will find peace, even if it comes later than expected. Today, I live with gratitude instead of regret. I wake up thankful for the simple things: a quiet morning, a gentle smile, a calm heart. I no longer rush time. I walk with it, and that has made all the difference. My story did not end the way I once imagined. It ended better. Playwright, holding an old letter, a broken memory, or a heavy heart, do not give up. Your story is still being written, and the most beautiful chapter may be the one you have not lived yet.